Recently, I was reading through some of my older journals from about 3 to 4 years ago at this point, and honestly, I was hit with a wave of emotions. On one hand, I was extremely excited because a lot of the things that I wrote down, I eventually went on to accomplish. However, at the same time, I was a bit annoyed at myself because I was reading through the pages and literally asking myself, like, why would you decide to do some of these things? I feel like to an extent, my priorities were misplaced in a lot of cases and I was just focused on the wrong things. But then again, I can only say this because I'm now looking at it from a retrospective point of view and connecting the dots in hindsight, right? And one of the problems or one of the mistakes that I was making is one I want to discuss in this journal entry. And it is simply a pattern that I found to occur over and over and over and over again, which is where I would say I should do this thing or I should do that thing. I wanted to do some things, but then I never actually got around to doing those things. And I don't think this is something that is alien to most of us, right? We've all had situations where we wanted to do something and we never actually got around to doing those things that we wanted to do. And I've just spent a while thinking about why this is and why I think I was struggling with that in the past. I think to an extent I still struggle with this, maybe a little bit, but definitely I have seen a drastic change, especially in the last couple of months. And the cause of that change is what I want to discuss in this video. In recent times, I've been able to say, okay, I want to do this thing, I want to do this other thing, and then eventually end up doing it. But then the reason that most people attribute to being able to do the things that you want to do, I think is wrong, or maybe, at least in my opinion, I think is wrong, right? Most people think that it is a discipline thing, and this is exactly what I used to think before. I just need to be more disciplined and I need to harness my inner self-motivation, my inner David Goggins and my willpower and all of that to get the things that I want to get, done. And I think I used to think like this a lot because in the past, I used to consume a lot of old Gary Vee contents, the whole hustle culture and, the early Grant Cardone and, that type of content where they popularized the whole, discipline and all of that. And I think it's interesting because to an extent, I do believe that is true. You need to become more disciplined and increase or harness your willpower to be able to get more things done. But at the same time, my perspective somewhat changed a bit, especially this year, after just looking back at the patterns in my own life and seeing what has worked for me and what has not worked for me. And I think to an extent, this might sound a bit complacent and a bit, less, not as much, you need more discipline and work, and it might sound like I'm a bit lazy, if you will, but then I just think this is the way we work fundamentally as human beings. And maybe there are people who just have better discipline, and I'm sure that is true, like a lot more people are disciplined. But then, if I'm being very honest with myself, just looking at the patterns, like I said in my life, I've noticed that I'm not the most self-motivated person, and I'm not the most disciplined person. I've tried in many scenarios in my life to say, hence the making of this journal entry in the first place, I should do this thing, I should do that thing, I should do this thing, but never actually got around to doing a lot of those things. And I've just found that I'm not the most motivated, self-disciplined, high willpowered person. I simply I'm not. But then I try to look at the situations where I've been able to complete the things that I wanted to do versus the other situations where I haven't completed the things that I wanted to do. And I found an interesting dynamic and an interesting pattern here that I want to highlight and talk about in this video. I have a friend and a mentor, Bolu Okwande, who framed this perfectly. It was something I started doing before I heard him talk about it, but then I think he just framed it perfectly. And it is this thing he calls the exam effect. And the exam effect basically just says that people as human beings don't do things that they should do. We only do things that we must do. And it is coined from the whole, like exam effect is coined from when at the beginning of the semester, we all make the goal to read every single day, not wait till the exam time is close to actually read our books and get the things we need to get done by studying early and doing the assignments early and all of those things. But then most times we actually never do all of those things. I know for sure I was one of those people who never studied until the exam time was close. And the only reason we studied when the exam time was close was because there is a deadline, there is a hard, strict consequence if we don't get the work done, right? So The exam effect is basically saying we don't do things we should do. Ideally, we should read during the semester every single day, ideally maybe every single weekday after every class or whatever cadence works for you, right? But then we only do things we must do, which is the exam deadline has been set. There are real consequences. If you don't read, you will fail. We only do things we must do. And the idea of this exam effect is basically turning all your shoulds into must. And this is what I have found to work for me personally, just looking back at my life. There's a lot of things that I know that I should have done, but then the only things I actually did were things that had real consequences and things that I know that, oh, if I don't do this, it's similar to how I was having a conversation with a friend, similar to how, let's say your mom leaves the house and she tells you to wash dishes, for example, to do the chores, to wash the dishes, sweep the living room, all of those things, right? But then you don't actually do it until, let's say, you know, for example, my mom used to come home, I don't know, around, let's say 5 p.m. Until it's like 4:30, I check the time and I'm like, oh snap, mom is about to get home. That's when I rush downstairs and I actually do the things I need to do and the things she told me to do. I don't do the things I should do, I only do the things that I must do. And I think that's because we tend to work this way biologically. I don't know if it's a biological thing, to be fair. Maybe I'm just lazy, right? And who knows, maybe that's true, but this is what I found to work. Because I found that I work this way and there's this pattern in my life, instead of trying, to an extent foolish of me, to decide that I want to increase my willpower and increase my discipline again, because I have tried that multiple times and it just hasn't worked for me. So the case here and the thing that I tried to change, the framing that I tried to change, right, is to basically engineer the things that I know that I really should do, to adapt real consequences and take the decision making factor of whether I do those things or I don't do those things out of my hands. And I'm going to explain exactly what that means in a bit. Basically, I want to change the circumstances of the things that I need to do. So first of all, the first action point, I think that thinking through it as I'm saying it right now, is basically identifying things that I know that I need to do. Now there's the shoulds, but then there's those things that we know that we absolutely want to do. And especially when it comes to things like, you know, when you're in school and you're in a set system and there are things that you need to read, you need to do your assignments, there's things that you fundamentally like have to do. They've been set in stone for you. It's relatively easier to get it done because they are like real life consequences. But then when you're crafting a vision for yourself of a life that you want to live, there's no consequence of not achieving those things. I mean, there's consequences, but you get what I mean. Like, nobody's going to beat you if you don't achieve the dreams that you set for yourself. I think in this case, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to be more disciplined and I'm going to achieve all my goals and I'm going to which in most cases just frankly doesn't work in my experience. Maybe you're different, maybe you're a different breed, maybe I'm the one that's a different breed, but then I found out in most cases it just doesn't work. What we need to do is, what I think I need to do, right, is to basically engineer my own circumstances and my environment and my situation in such a way that I adopt those same real consequences that I used to have in a structured environment into my unstructured environments. For example, like I now live here in Lagos alone, far from my family, far from everybody that I know. I could decide not to do anything, but I know I need to do some things. But then to make sure that I actually do those things that I need to do, I need to engineer my circumstances in such a way that I'm turning my shoulds into musts. So, practical example. One, let's say this YouTube channel, which I'm literally talking on, so I might as well talk about it. One way I can convert my should, or I'm converting my should into a must, is I should make videos. It's different from announcing to, my channel, especially with the video that I made. One of the last videos that I made, I think it was titled something along the lines of how I'm prepping for 2025. I honestly can't remember the title, but I was basically planning for 2025. And I shared my goals. These are my goals for the end of the year. I want to upload 9 videos and then I want to help 2 people to get jobs. I eventually helped one of them to get a job. The second one didn't work out. And then the uploading 9 videos, I'm still on it. Don't think I'll be able to achieve 9 videos. But then, by putting myself in a situation where I have publicized to thousands of people, frankly, I think like 13,000 people or so ended up watching that video. By publicizing the things that I want to do to a large number of people, I put myself in a situation where there are quote unquote real consequences to my action of doing the thing that I need to do. Another example is going to the gym, right? I could decide, oh, I want to go to the gym. But instead of just saying I want to go to the gym, what I decided to do was to pay a personal trainer that would check up on me and talk to me and be like, yo, have you done this thing? Have you not done that thing? And then in that situation, I put myself in a situation where it's not a should any longer, it's a must. I must do this thing. So basically, the point of all of this is to think through how I can turn my shoulds and the things that I want to do. First of all, identifying the things that I know I want to do, right? The outcomes that I'm pursuing, the outcomes that I know I want out of my life, right? I want to do this. I want to do this. For me, it is currently the the remote job program and this YouTube thing. Those are two things that I know that I definitely want to focus on, especially now it's getting to the end of the year. I'm reflecting a bit and then trying to plan for 2025. These are the two things that are primary and important to me, at least career-wise, right? And then now, after I've identified the things I absolutely need to do, I need to figure out how to turn it from a should into a must. Ideally, you might argue that it's already a must because you must do this. If your must is reliant on an internal self-drive, self-motivation type thing, the likelihood that it's going to fail is quite high. Maybe you are actually self-disciplined, and if you find, after patterns in your life, you've done this before and you say you must do something and you end up doing it, then fantastic. You definitely don't need this and I need to be learning from you, probably, right? But then I found that in most cases, even though I set all the must and all of the things that I need to do, I still find that I don't end up doing them even after all the whole drive and motivation things. Now, secondly, find a way to engineer that thing in such a way that I must do it, either by publicizing it, finding external accountability, maybe talking to somebody that I deeply respect about it and telling them a deadline I'm going to get it done, such that I would feel embarrassed to go back to the person and then say I didn't end up achieving this thing. Or maybe I need to commit financial accountability with somebody else where I say I'll pay you this amount or whatever it is. You kind of get creative. There's no like rule book to doing these things, right? You can get creative on how exactly you want to turn the should into a must, such that you're able to make sure that you actually get done the things that you want to do. And I found this to be extremely helpful. For example, another area in my life that I know I struggle with a lot is spirituality. I still struggle with it, like trying to read my Bible, pray, and just grow spiritually. And I decided, was just how about we sign up to Bible school? There's a financial commitment there, and then I carry over courses if I don't finish up the assignments and the exams or whatever it is I need to do there. And I'm turning it from a should into a must. It's still a work in progress. I'm still trying to figure that part of my life out, but it's a step forward from wherever it is that I was before by turning my should into a must. Again, I'm giving credits. The exam effect is not my concept. It is Bolu's concept. I'll leave a link to his Instagram in the description if you want to check out his stuff. A really wise young man. And for this journal entry, the journal prompt that I want you to, maybe if you're, don't let me say I want you to, but like if you're interested and you want to check it out or you want to try it out for yourself, you can use the journaling prompt of what are some shoulds I have in my life that I want to turn into must. And the action point here is to simply just identify the things that you need to do and then finding ways in which you can turn your shoulds into must. So yeah, my journal entry for today, and something that I've learned recently after having conversations with a bunch of people and doing a bit of self-reflection. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think about this new style of videos, these journal entry styles. I enjoyed filming this video and I'm looking forward to hear your thoughts on it. I'll see you in my next video. Peace.